podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and The Pavilion with me, Stephen Wallace. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to watch all 5 tests of an Ashes series down under? In this episode, it was worth every minute. I'm joined by 2 England supporters who did exactly that. Ian Jones from Chester and Graham Pickering from York reflect on their unforgettable trip to Australia. The cricket, the different grounds, the cities, the hospitality and the experience of being away for more than 50 days following the Ashes. They say it was worth every minute, and hopefully this episode will persuade you to do the same when the Ashes returns to Australia in 4 years' time. Hello, Ian and Graham. Thanks for agreeing to be on the Paddock and the Pavilion.
Hi, Stephen. It's been a pleasure to join you, and you and Graham.
Yeah, hi, Stephen. Yeah, it's thank you for the invite, and pleased to meet Ian.
Your first podcast?
Yes, my first podcast, Stephen. Yeah.
Yes, and for me first as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
It seems a long while since I met you, Graham. I'm going to select you first because I met you getting a coffee at the Optus Stadium. I'm going to call it the Optus Stadium, not the Perth Stadium, on day one when we were both full of hope.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very excited. Obviously, it's been a long build up to the Ashes. So yeah, we travelled more in hope than expectation, but yeah, once we'd got there, our hopes got raised even higher. So yeah, looking forward to the first day.
And for listeners, Graham comes from York, and Ian, it's not the War of the Roses, but you are a Manchester United supporter.
I am indeed, for my sins. I've been following Manchester United for over 50 years.
I better keep quiet, being an Arsenal fan, but I met you at Adelaide ahead of the third Test match on a Sunday afternoon, watching Adelaide Cricket Club, where you were with my friend Jenny Thompson of her World Cricket Tour fame.
Indeed, I met Jenny at the last 2020 World Cup in the Caribbean. We just happened to be staying at the same hotel, and we bumped into each other, and we ended up just chatting. And obviously, cricket was a massive thing, and we ended up talking. And then she was due to go back to England to see her parents, and invited me over to Old Trafford to watch Lancaster versus Hampshire. Met her parents. It was good, and then obviously arranged. I was already in the process of planning my trip over to Australia, and we agreed that when I got to Adelaide, we'd catch up, and that's what we did on that Sunday morning when I met you as well.
It was the first time I'd actually met Jenny. She's been on my podcast 3 or 4 times talking about her exploits around the world, watching and playing cricket. One of the places she introduced me to, I don't know whether Graham went there, but the Australian Pavilion. I thought I'd give them a shout out this evening on the podcast, and Irfan Hashmi. You went there, Ian? I
did, Stephen. I must admit, I think it was on your recommendation, actually. I think you sent me a text and said it was a must go. And when I got there, I dragged one of the guys that I'd met. It's a long story how I met him, but I'd met him on a previous tour that I went to in New Zealand last year, and I bumped into him in Perth, bizarrely. Anyway, we stuck together, and he was doing Adelaide, and I dragged him along, and we walked quite a while to get there. And when we got there and we walked in, I was quite disappointed, to be fair, at the first initial thought. It was a really small room, and I thought, oh, what have we done here? But what a place. It was absolutely amazing. And the pharmacist came and showed us around. Then Irfan arrived. And I'll be honest, I was like a kid in a sweet shop. It was amazing.
Graham, you didn't get to the Australian Pavilion?
No, we missed that one, I'm afraid.
If you go to Adelaide again, you must go there. I mean, Irfan has got a collection to die for. Cricket. It's not just cricket, though. It was football, Australian rules football. There was Messi shirts signed, Ronaldo shirts. I didn't think we'd hear Cristiano Ronaldo on my podcast, but he's on it now. But there was so much stuff in there, wasn't there, Ian?
Oh, amazing! It was just an amazing collection of different art, different sports, and like you say, Messi signed Messi shirts, and the Don Bradman's part he had there, all the books I was really particularly interested in. His murals, his walls painted with different cricketers. It was just amazing, to be fair. It was, I was surprised it was free to go in. It was. He could have made it. You could have charged, and I would have been happy to pay money to go and see it. It was a great collection of cricket and all sporting memorabilia, to be honest.
Well, I hope Irfan now listens to this podcast, because we've given the Australian Pavilion in Adelaide a great advert. First question I wanted to ask you both, I'm going to ask Graham it to start. A lot of newspapers in the UK were saying that the England defeat might put people off going again and things like that. So my first question to you, Graham, was it all worth it?
Yes, definitely. Every minute. We had 54 days there in total, and we never stopped from start to finish. Obviously, we went for the cricket. That was the main driver for going. But as the tour went on, it became much more about Australia, and everything about Australia we really enjoyed. The people really friendly, very helpful. If you're in a city, got a map out to have a look. There was somebody there within seconds asking where you were going. Yeah, you're on the right route. So yeah, in 4 years' time, if anybody wanted to do it, I would definitely say get saved up and do it. And I would do all 5 tests as well. At the moment, when it's crammed into 8 weeks, it seems a long time, but it just flew by. And then once Boxing Day test started, the Melbourne and Sydney test time just flew, and before you knew it, we were back on the plane coming home.
So although everyone's different, Graham, it wouldn't put you off going again if following a 4-1 defeat?
No. So the cricket was obviously disappointing, and England didn't play very well at times. We had a few good afternoons and a few good sessions where we looked as though we could maybe pull it round. But just the whole experience of doing the stadiums, you can't believe how huge the stadiums are. When I think there's Lord's about capacity 28,000, and you go to the MCG and the members on their own have got 26,500 seats just for the members, and then obviously you've got the 100,000 capacity. So it just blows your mind. And obviously the rest of Australia in between the tests, we did. So we never stopped. We did something every day while we were there. So just going for Australia. I've been to Australia 35 years ago, but I only did the East Coast. So Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne. When we included a trip to Tasmania while we were there as well. It was all new, and it's fantastic. Can't recommend it highly enough. And I say the people are really friendly. Obviously, if we'd beaten them at cricket, I'm not sure how friendly they would have been in Melbourne or Sydney. But yeah, couldn't fault the Australians, and it was just lovely.
And would you say the same, Ian? You wouldn't have missed it for the world, even though we lost 4-1?
Absolutely, exactly. I've made a few notes previous to the coming on, and my notes almost echo exactly what Graham has just said. It was absolutely worth it. It was an amazing trip. It was my first time on Australian soil, and as Graham mentioned, the cricket became almost inconsequential, to be honest, to the actual trip that I took. I suppose, had they won in Perth, which maybe they should have done, with that, that's another thing. My feelings may have been slightly different, but being the first time, as I say, on Australian soil, I was taken aback by the country itself, by the people. As Graham has just said, it's just a repeat of what Graham said. It was just an amazing trip, and I would recommend it to anybody if in 4 years' time. I'm even thinking of doing it again myself, to be honest, if financial resources allow. But I would recommend it. It was absolutely amazing. And like Graham, I went to Tasmania as well. I did a lot of other things as well. I went on the Great Barrier Reef. I did a lot of things. As I said, the cricket was the reason for going. And I probably would never have gone to Australia had it not been for the Ashes. And I was so pleased. So I've got a lot to thank, as Graham says, the games, the matches were disappointing, but there we go.
So, Ian, although we lost 4-1, you, as some of the newspapers wrote, you don't feel let down by the players?
No, I don't feel let down at all, because, as Graham said earlier, I went with absolutely no expectations. Hope as anything, as Graham mentioned, hope rather than expectations. And I mentioned to you when we spoke in Adelaide, that it would probably be 5-0, but I was hoping it might be 3-2 to England. But not felt let down by the team. Disappointed, obviously, and I think they could have performed well. They had a few injuries to key players during the games, but to be honest, so did Australia.
Graham, when did you start planning for the trip?
Well, it's been on the drawing board for about 40 years. About 40 years ago, a couple of friends went to the Boxing Day and the New Year's Test. They came back absolutely buzzing about it. So it's always been in the back of my mind that it's something I must do one day. And about 15 years ago, I broached it with my boss about having the last 2 weeks off in December and the first 2 weeks in January to do with the Boxing Day and New Year's Test. But he flatly refused because he wouldn't let me have 4 weeks holiday off in one go, even though it was 2 different years. And then in January 22, I got COVID. So at the time, he had to work from home. He had to isolate. My wife was already retired. And I just saw her pottering about, in and out, walking the dog, doing little jobs. I thought, well, I think I could do this. So we did the sums. Thought, right, I'll retire next year. So I retired in March 23. And then within a couple of days of retiring, I registered my interest with our travel company that I was interested in going. And then you think, well, I'm retired now. I could probably do all 5, depends on what it's going to cost. So I put down I wanted to go all 5. My wife was interested as well. And it sort of went from there. And then obviously the fixtures got released in, was it October 24? And then sort of December 24, the initial itineraries came out from the travel company, which we liked. And then obviously we paid our deposit, I think just before Christmas in 24, sort of committed to going. So it's been sort of 40 years in the planning, and it's been well worth the wait. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring the Ashes home with us, but as I said earlier, it was more hope than expectation.
And as a Yorkshireman, you are a big cricket fan, obviously.
Yeah, I go to watch Yorkshire. Yeah, generally go to the Scarborough Festival every year, obviously at Scarborough, to watch Yorkshire play. But yeah, I always go and try and go and watch Yorkshire in the county championship if I can. But always, if they've got a test match at Leeds, then we'll always go and watch them at Leeds. If not, then we'll travel to Manchester or Nottingham, or in the past we've travelled up to Chester Street to go and watch England play. So yeah, I prefer the test match cricket to the one days. I'm not a big fan of the 2020s or the 100. So if we're going, Leeds is about just over an hour and a quarter away from us. So you really want to go for the whole day if you're going across Headingley to watch the cricket.
Ian, 40 years in the planning or not?
Do you know what, Stephen? I'm just listening to Graham there and thinking it's pretty boring, this, because that was exactly. I emulate everything that Graham has just said. Is very similar to me. I retired in March 2023, and decided. I wouldn't say it was 40 years in the making. I'll be honest, but a long time ago, I've always wanted to go to Australia to watch the cricket. And I mean, I had 2 bucket lists, I suppose, if you want to call them that. One was to watch Test cricket in the Caribbean, which I've not yet done, although hence the reason I went to the 2020 World Cup in 2024, and go to an Ashes tour, and I've managed to do that. But similar to Graham, time working, time off, just couldn't do it. Financial resources wouldn't allow at the time. And then I retired in March. The plan, I must admit, I did have a plan to go to the previous one before COVID dashed it. So I was planning on doing that. But that plan wasn't to go to all 5 at the time because I was still working, of course. But yeah, obviously COVID came and went, and then I decided that I was going to do it, and I planned it all myself. I didn't use any travel agents. I did everything myself. I planned the whole trip, flights from start to finish, internal flights, everything I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do when I was in Australia, and there was a few people that I had met along my lifetime that I wanted to pop back and see, and I managed to do it. So I've been really, really lucky that everything went to plan. Everything was perfect. There was one day in June, overnight in June. I think it was June the 5th when the tickets went on sale in Australia, Australian time, and I woke up at, I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning for the Brisbane tickets I had to get, and then it was every 2 hours right up until 7 o'clock in the morning getting my Perth tickets. So yeah, I did it all myself, and I'm pleased that I did. May have knocked a few pounds off the total had I gone with a travel agent, but I just decided to do it myself.
Now, I did exactly the same as you with the tickets, Ian. As I went to the first 3 tests, and I set my alarm, and I got up, went back to bed, and got back up again. And then, because I was buying all these tickets, I had one of my tickets was declined by my ex-employee Barclays, who I then had to ring up to say that they weren't fraudulent purchases because I was buying all these tickets in the middle of the night. But you were probably lucky there.
Yes, I must admit, I was expecting my credit card company to block, because they usually do. And I must admit, I don't mind them doing that because it's a security. But I was panicking. They're thinking, if they're going to, especially because the queue, and it was taking time and it wasn't easy with Ticket Tech. And I was lucky because I'd already got an account with Ticket Tech because I'd been to New Zealand to watch the cricket previous year. So that was okay. So I think it was the Adelaide Brisbane tickets were through Ticket Tech. But yeah, it was a nervy time, but I managed to get all the tickets, which was brilliant. Yeah, so I was quite pleased with myself, to be honest.
That was one of the reasons why we booked through a tour company, just to guarantee the cricket tickets, because it was surprising. At Perth, we were bumping into people that only got tickets to day 3 and 4. Obviously, they missed out. And there was an awful lot of people in Melbourne who'd only got tickets for 3 and 4. Because we did the stadium tour on day 3, and about 20 in the group, and I reckon 10 or 12 of them had tickets for day 3, and they missed obviously all the cricket. So that's, yeah, obviously Boxing Day Test Melbourne's one of the biggest days in the tour calendar, and it's a shame to go that way to miss it. So yeah, I say we might have saved a few pennies by doing it ourselves, but at least we had 25 days of cricket tickets. If it lasted 25 days, we were never expecting to see 25 days of cricket, but we were never expecting to see 2 days in Perth and 2 days in Melbourne either.
Well, you got 18 between you, so I presume both of you went every day.
I did, yeah, every day. Never missed the ball. Did. Never missed the ball.
No, we didn't either. We stayed to the bitter end every day when you knew it was just going to bat out, or you could. A couple of afternoons in Sydney, it got a bit slow and people were leaving. But I've spent all that money. I'm a tight Yorkshireman. Spent all that money. I'm not going to miss a ball. And well, people on day 4 in Brisbane weren't even going. I think, well, it could last half an hour. It could last 3 hours. And it lasted, I think, till after lunch on day 4 in Brisbane. But I thought, well, what's the point? And people in Sydney, I think day 3 went to Manly. I think, well, it could be finished in 4 days. You've got day 5 too. But again, Sydney went 5 days. So yeah, I wasn't going to miss a ball, and we didn't.
No, me neither. Yeah, I'll be honest. I get what you're saying about the tickets. I had a backup plan for Melbourne and Sydney because my friend of mine wanted to join. As I'd planned it all, he decided he wanted to join me. He came out on Christmas Day for the Boxing Day test. So we had a backup via he'd booked a package deal for those 2 weeks. So I sort of latched onto that just to guarantee those tickets as well. But I was lucky. I managed to get. But I went like you, Graham. I went to I saw every ball, every. Yeah, it was, and that's what I was there for. It was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed it. I did lots of other things as well.
We'll get back. We'll get on to them shortly. But
yeah,
you two are now enjoying this podcast. It's the Graham and Ian show here. I'll ask you this one, Ian. Did you meet many other people who were doing exactly the same as you, going to all five? Man, I went to three, but the thought of going for all five, was there many of you?
I don't, you know what? I only met one other person in Perth, a chap called Marcus. He was a Leeds United fan.
Oh dear.
And I'd met him through the guy that I mentioned to you. I'd met in New Zealand, and I bizarrely bumped into him in Perth, and he was with him, and he was doing all five tests, and I did see him. Obviously, I went to see him Perth, Brisbane, and Adelaide. I didn't see him in Melbourne at the cricket, but I bumped into him in Melbourne, and in Sydney. He was lucky enough to be in the members part as well in Sydney, so I didn't see him in Sydney, but he went. But he was the only one. And I did hear a friend of mine was listening to TMS on back home, and one of the commentators said, "I wonder how many are doing all five tests." So I did meet a guy, funnily enough, on my flight back to Dubai, in between Sydney and Dubai. He was sat next to my friend who'd come over for the two tests, and he'd been to all five. So, but he'd already, obviously, that was on our way back. That was two, but I didn't know his name. I think he was a Yorkshireman, actually. Yes, he was. He was from Selby. There was quite a lot of Yorkshiremen. There was quite a lot of Yorkshiremen out there, to be fair.
Yeah, Joe Root, Harry Brook.
Yeah, a lot of Leeds tops. Yeah,
there was.
Yeah, well, on our, so we were part of the tour, but in Perth, we got there the day before. We went to the test. We were sat next to a Dutch couple, which we thought was a bit bizarre, but they were supporting England, and we got talking to them, and they were watching all five tests. But at the time, we didn't know they were part of our group. It wasn't until after the test, when we did a 5-day trip around Western Australia, they were on the same coach tour as us. So I think of the company we used, I think there was about a dozen people doing all five tests, and I think it was about 6 or 7 did exactly the same as what we did, the whole itinerary for 54 days. But again, some people after Perth flew to Brisbane, wanted to do the Barrier Reef like Ian's done. Some people went to Sydney because they were doing the Sydney test. But we didn't come across many people doing all five. It sort of split into two groups. Some people were doing the first 3 tests so they could get home for Christmas. And then other people were coming out on Christmas Day to do the Boxing Day, New Year test. So that seemed to be the main group. Either you do the first 3 or you do the last 2. There wasn't many doing the whole 5.
You're listening to the Paddock and the Pavilion with me, Stephen Wallace. Don't forget you can catch this episode and nearly 400 more on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. If you're enjoying the show, please do subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your fellow cricket lovers. Now, before we get back to my chat with Ian and Graham, let's set the scene and get you right back into that Ashes frame of mind. Picture the Gabba in Brisbane, the tension building, the crowd humming in anticipation. Here comes Mitchell Starc, charging in, left arm over, the noise rises. Now, Graham, we haven't really talked much about cricket, and it's not really the actual objective of this podcast, but in your opinion, was 4-1 a fair reflection on the series?
I think it was, yeah. Obviously, we should have won at Perth, which would have given us a good boost. That walking home after the first day's test, we all had a bounce in our step. Some were more optimistic than I was because I've watched England for a lot of years and I know what they could be like, but some England fans, we've got this one, we've got we're going to win this. And then obviously at lunchtime on day 2, we're effectively 100 for 1, so we're eating our lunch feeling fairly confident. and then obviously the wheels came off that afternoon. So yeah, it was nice to see us win a test for the first time in, was it 18 tests? I think we'd not won one, but yeah, Australia were just a better team. England, I was a little bit disappointed with some of the shots they played. Just a bit disappointed was obviously with the catching. They say catches win matches on Australia, where the slip Labuschagne and Steve Smith hardly missed a chance. So, and then obviously Jamie Smith dropped a sitter at the Gabba, and that sort of set the tone for Brisbane. But yeah, well, I was happy we'd seen them win one test. As like Ian, it would have been, yeah, if we'd won been 3-2, I think it might have just flattered us a bit, because for the most of the time we were nowhere near Australia. They were always just a bit better with the ball, fielding, batting. So yeah, 4-1 I think is a fair reflection.
And you, Ian?
Yeah, same. To be honest, I was disappointed the fact that there was that two tests only lasted, 4 days for 2 tests was very disappointing from my point of view, to be honest with you. Even though we won the one in Melbourne, I was disappointed. I was there to watch cricket, and to be honest, I did feel for those two, Perth and Melbourne, that I did feel a bit cheated, if you like, for want of a better word. I was disappointed. But in terms of the 4-1, absolutely, Australia dominated, and England never really looked like winning any of the tests apart. I mean, the Perth one, yes, but after lunch, they just fell apart. It was, I say, disappointing, and it'll been debated. It's been debated, and it'll be debated again if they won that, if that. But yeah, I just thought Australia were the far better team in every department, bowling in particular, and I think, and Graham alluded to it as well, I think wicket keeping was a big thing for me. I thought Carey was absolutely fantastic, putting our bowlers off coming up again when he's got Boland coming in at 140 kilometres an hour to come in and stand up. That was putting Root. You could see Root. All the batsmen, they were under pressure. They didn't like it, and I just thought Australia were very, very good and were excellent value for 4-1.
What did you think, the two of you, to watching a day-night Ashes test? Did you like it?
Shall I go first?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a little bit. I wasn't sure, very apprehensive, to be fair. Not sure on what it'd be like. But I have to say, although that one didn't last too long, a bit longer than 2 days, but I really enjoyed it. I'll be honest. I really enjoyed the day-night test. Is it something I'd like to do in this country, to watch tests? Because I am a bit of a purist. Probably not, to be honest with you. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I enjoyed. Brisbane's a great city. The Gabba is a good stadium, and I did enjoy it, to be fair. But I'm not sure I would like it if it was something that was normal. To be honest, it's all right as a one-off, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we're going to disagree, and I didn't like the day-night tests. Starting at 2:00 in an afternoon, it was just a bit. I was looking forward to doing it because I've not done pink ball tests before, but 2:00 start in an afternoon, you're having an early breakfast, and then once hanging about in Brisbane, you're finding things to do, but you were always looking at your watch thinking, well, what time is it? How long is it going to take us to get back here? And obviously after the game, it was really good with the shuttle buses getting you back into the city, but we were on the North Bank, so we had another 25-minute walk afterwards, and by 9:30, all the loop buses had stopped. And by the time we got back to our hotel at 10:00, the bar was closed. So you just wanted a cold beer just to refresh and chew over the day's cricket. But it was closed, so it was just a bit of a daft time. And say you'd have your lunch at 12:00, and then what time do you have your tea? And then you come back at 10:00 at night. Well, do you have some more food, or what do you do? So, yeah, I didn't really enjoy the day-night test. Obviously, it went for 4 days, so it was a bit of you were sort of wouldn't say killing time in the morning, but you were just all the time clock watching. But so we found plenty to do in Brisbane, as you said, Ian. Brisbane's a lovely city. There's plenty to do. So it wasn't that, but you were just all the time a bit nervous. Have we gone too far? Are we going to get back in time? And then, so when the twilight came in, when it was getting dark, the cricket went a bit stale. The bowlers didn't bowl very well, and the batsmen didn't score many runs. So it was, for me, it was just a bit of a dead hour. So it was between 5 and 6, I think, when it was going dark. So nothing really seemed to happen much on that time. So that was just my opinion on that one.
You did get to see Joe Root, a Yorkshireman, score his first Ashes century down under, Graham.
Well, yeah, every cloud has a silver lining, and that was probably one of the top moments, other than us winning in Melbourne, was watching Joe Root get his 100, and obviously nervous 90s. I think every England fan was nervous in the 90s, not only Joe Root, but then obviously Archer was whacking a few as well at the end. So we had a great afternoon. We weren't with the Barmy Army, but we were close to them. We had a great afternoon sort of singing their songs until Root got to his 100. And then obviously when he got his 100, everybody singing the Joe Root song was out of this world. So yeah, proud Yorkshireman when he finally got the monkey off his back, and he could stop all the Australians criticising him because he's not the ghost, but he's definitely the ghost. He's Joe Root.
Ian, you spent some time with the Barmy Army, didn't you?
Yeah, well, yes. We were in the mix. I must admit, 90%, everyone was great, and the guys are all good fun, and it is good fun. But as I said earlier, I'm a bit of a purist, and sometimes I felt that some of the songs and singing it become almost like a football game, which I didn't like. That's just me personally. Some of the chants, but no. They're great fun. They are great fun, and Finchy on the trumpet getting everyone going is just amazing, to be honest. So yeah, it was a great experience. But this is just me. It's nothing against the Barmy Army. I'm glad I was on my own and I did my own thing, to be honest with you. And I wasn't in with the group, but I was in. But where my seats were, I was caught up with them, and they were a great bunch. And they were when I was in New Zealand. I met a few of them in New Zealand, so it was they had great fun, to be honest.
And your favourite moment of the playing action, Ian?
Well, we've already touched on it. I've got there's quite a few, to be fair, for me. I've made a few notes, as I said. Joe Root's first Test century in Australia has to be up there. Along with Jacob Bethel's maiden Test first class century at the SCG at Sydney, that was fantastic. I was so pleased for him. He really deserved that, and it was a sublime century he went on. But I think, and Graham's alluded to it as well, I think the thing that's right up there was Harry Brook hitting the winning runs at the MCG to bring England's 15-year 18 tests winless to an end in Australia. So I think that has to be the highlight, to be honest.
And you, Graham?
Yeah, as I said, Joe Root's century at the Gabba was the highlight, and obviously winning at Melbourne. The Barmy Army were in Bay 13, which didn't go down too well in Sydney in Melbourne with the Australians. And we were in Bay 9, so we were close, but far enough away. Obviously, as England were getting closer to winning, there was more and more England supporters coming down from all around the stadium to sit with the Barmy Army. The Australians were gradually leaving the seats, so we're getting filled up by England fans. And obviously, when we won, we were singing the Barmy Army songs, and we stayed for about half an hour, 40 minutes after the game, just singing away. Such a good atmosphere. And we were hoping the England team would have come out to acknowledge us, but apparently Cricket Australia wouldn't let them back onto the pitch for security reasons. I think they're just the bad losers, Australia. But so yeah, that afternoon, and said Joe Root's afternoon. And again, the first afternoon in Perth when we were ripping through the Australian Barmy batting. I think they were 123 for 9 on the end of the first day. The Barmy Army were quite a way away, but they were in good voice. So we had some good songs, and then they had a DJ on playing songs in between the overs, and they played Sweet Caroline. So obviously he wasn't a cricket fan. I didn't know what England songs sung, so everybody was singing Sweet Caroline. So we enjoyed it. But as Ian said, I'm glad we weren't in the thick of it with the Barmy Army. And then I think the funniest moment was in Adelaide when we were trying to chase 400 and some down, and we got halfway. Then the Barmy Army started on Living on a Prayer. We're halfway there, so that had us in hysterics while we were singing. They were singing that. That was funny, but obviously that's something they've played before. But I've not really been away. Well, I've never been away to watch England play cricket. So some of the songs were new to us, so we found them all quite funny at times. But as Ian said, it's getting a bit too much like a football game. It's cricket. It's a different game, and it's a bit more refined. I would like, if that's the right word. So yeah, we found there was quite a lot of people there that really weren't cricket fans. At times, I think they were there just looking for the glory. If England had won the Ashes, then they could say we were there. There were the two talking up and down, getting a drink, going to the toilet, getting food. So that just spoilt it sometimes for us, people just getting up and down in between overs, not the end of overs, but that's just the way it is when you've got 100,000 people in a stadium.
What mark out of 10 then would you give England, Graham?
3. 3
Yeah.
out of 10. Yeah, the bowling, short, wide, everybody could see it. The Australian fans we were sat next to, certainly in Brisbane, were just laughing at us because they could see what they were doing wrong, but they just came wide and short, bang. They never bowled. I think on TMS, I think they said out of 300 balls, I think 20 would have hit the wickets or something. So yeah, obviously they played some poor shots and they dropped 18 catches, as we've already said. And some of the decision making wasn't very good. So, I might be generous with 3 out of 10 for England.
Ian, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I give Australia 9 out of 10. You could argue 10 to be honest for Australia, but I've been a bit more generous with England than Graham. I've given them a 4. So yeah, so I thought 9 for Australia and 4 for England for similar reasons that Graham's already mentioned. To be fair, it was quite clear from early on in the series, and they just carried on persisting with the same thing, and it just wasn't getting results, and Australia were just rubbing their hands. And the proof, as they say, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, and it was 4-1. So,
how would the two of you, compare the grounds and the cities?
Sorry, Steve, can I just go back to my Australia score?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I'm not as generous as Ian with Australia. I have 6 out of 10 for the team, but Mitch Starc, I would give 10 out of 10. Obviously, he sort of virtually won the first 3 tests with his bowling. And then he got quite a few runs in some of the innings in the first 3 tests. Travis said I'd give 9 out of 10. Obviously, he smashed that 100 to win in Perth. And then, as I've alluded, the catching, Labuschagne and Steve Smith in the slips, they took some brilliant catches, world-class catching. And as Ian said, Alex Carey was just a different class behind the wickets when you say you've got Boland and Nisa bowling at 140 clicks an hour, and he stood up. He was just, and he's batting as well. He's a lovely bat. He's lovely to watch batting. He's technically, seems very good. Probably one of the best batsmen Australia have got.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Selling your car shouldn't feel like a second job. It should feel easy. With Carvana, it is. Just visit Carvana.com, enter your license plate or VIN, answer a few quick questions, and get an offer in minutes. Like what you see? We'll pick it up right from your door and hand you your check. No haggling, no hassle, no problem. Car selling made easy on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Graham, how would you compare the five grounds we've mentioned? You've mentioned some of them already, but how would you compare the five? Have you got a favourite?
Yeah, Adelaide was my favourite ground. It's very similar to Trent Bridge. I'd say Trent Bridge is better, but obviously with the roof, the white roofs that they had round, they had a lovely old pavilion. And what was really nice, they had a traditional scoreboard, old-fashioned scoreboard, where they had all the players, all the 11 batsmen, so you could see what Duckett had got, what Crawley had scored, what Pope, I think Pope played in Adelaide. So you could see down the list of what everybody had scored. You could see all the bowlers, rather than an electronic scoreboard that's just got whoever's batting at the moment, whoever's bowling. But Adelaide was a lovely, lovely ground. I think it was about 60,000 capacity, I think. So it wasn't sort of the biggest, but obviously Perth, a fairly new stadium. I'm a little bit disappointed that obviously they're not using the Wacker anymore, but the Optus Stadium was lovely and brand new. It still looked. Brisbane, I think, well, I like Brisbane Stadium, but I think they're knocking that down for the Olympics in 2032. And then obviously Melbourne, we were everywhere we went, we were ground level watching the cricket. It wasn't until we did the tour the following day, we went right up into the gods. You just didn't realise how big a stadium Melbourne was, 100,000, and how tiny the cricketers must have been if you were up in the gods watching them play. And obviously Sydney, it was another good stadium, but you just can't get your head around that how big they are compared to all English stadiums. And as I said earlier, MCG's got 26,500 members seats just in the stadium. That's not much less than what Lord's holds.
And for you, Ian?
As the SCG was my favourite ground by a mile, to be honest. I really enjoyed that. I just thought it was a proper cricket ground. The others, I was most disappointed with the Optus. I didn't really like the Optus Stadium. It was just an oval stadium, brand new, just off the blueprints. You see them all over the world. And I was slightly disappointed. I much would have preferred, as Graham said, to play at the iconic Wacker. In fact, I was lucky enough, the Barmy Army were actually had a charity match there. So I was desperate to go to the Wacker. So I was going to go. There was a women's game on. Perth Scorchers were playing. The Perth women's team were playing. I was going to go to that, but I managed to go to just so I could say I'd been to the Wacker, because it was that I much have preferred it to have been there. I wasn't a fan of the Optus, to be honest. And I'll be again. I wasn't really a fan of the MCG. I, like Graham, I was on the lower levels. And a quick story: when I was in Brisbane, I met a lovely gentleman and his wife sat next to me at Brisbane for the 2 days from Melbourne, and they came to Brisbane for the Australians, and they were John, his name was, and he was a tour guide of the MCG. He was retired, and when I went to Melbourne, we made contact, and I had a private tour of the whole ground, so it was amazing. But as a cricket venue, I'm not so sure. I mean, they split it 6 months for Cricket Australia and 6 months for the AFL. It is geared up to AFL. Obviously, drop-in pitch as are most of the pitches there. But yeah, for me, it was the SCG, but because it was just a proper cricket ground, I really enjoyed it. And I get the point. There was no original scoreboard there. That was a shame. And I did like the Adelaide Oval. I'll be honest. That would have been my second choice. So yeah.
A lot's made that you're playing against a nation when you play Australia. Did you get that feeling yourselves?
Absolutely. Yes, I did. Without a doubt. Yeah. Everyone. I must admit, I was surprised how low cricket is on their sporting on their sporting list. AFL is right up there, Australian rules, the football, followed very closely, depending on which state you are. It swaps between rugby league and AFL, and cricket is third and fourth in some states. So I was absolutely amazed at that, to be honest. I didn't realise that until I got there. But obviously, when you're there, and the fans, the people are just brilliant. They've got a very, very dry sense of humour. They had me in tux. I've got a couple of funny moments. I don't know whether you're going to go on to funny moments, but I was in the queue at the Optus Stadium going in day one, and there was a group of 6 young Australians, half a dozen or maybe more, and they were all dressed in air hostess outfits, and they had the full mop. They had the wig, the blonde wig, the high heels, the tights, the skirts, and they had the Thunderbird type hats on, with the cravat, and they were all streaming in. Can't wait for the cricket, and I was coming in behind them. One of them dropped his hat, and I picked it up and I said, "Excuse me, mate." And he goes, "Oh, thank you very much, mate. I would have looked silly without that, wouldn't I?" So he just had me in tux. That was just that summed it up for me, the whole trip, just in that one little phrase. Yeah, the people were great.
So, Graham, what did you get up to when you weren't watching the 18 days of Test match action? I don't want to know you went to Noosa.
No, we didn't. I've been to Noosa 35 years ago, but we didn't go that far when we were in Brisbane. But, well, as I say, we were there for 54 days and we never stopped. We did something every day. It's obviously, barring the 18 days of cricket, obviously Perth, we had to find a lot more to do because we had 1 day of leisure when we arrived, but after two days of cricket, we had another 3 days leisure. So we went to Rottnest Island where the quokkas are. So we went cycling around the island. There's no motor vehicles allowed on it. We went snorkeling off there as well. The sea was a bit cold, but we did that. And then we went up to further north in Western Australia to a place called the Pinnacles to see these limestone structures that have just appeared out, well, not appeared out of the ground, but there were a weird limestone structures. They're called the Pinnacles. And then between Perth and Brisbane, we did 5 days around Western Australia. So we covered quite a lot of ground, went far south as Albany, down to Lewin Point where the Indian Ocean and the Southern Ocean meet. And then we flew to Brisbane. Brisbane went to Tasmania, so we had 7 days around Tasmania. So the famous Cradle Mountain and Wineglass Bay. We're really lucky with the weather. The locals couldn't believe how sunny it was and how lucky we'd been to see these places because people go 10 or a dozen times to see Cradle Mountain. It's covered in cloud. It's a bit like when people go to see the Northern Lights. They go umpteen times and never see them. And then from Tasmania, we obviously Adelaide, and then we did between Adelaide and Melbourne, we had another tour on the Great Ocean Road. So we saw the 12 Apostles. At Melbourne, we went to Phillip Island we did a few trips off our own bat as well. And we went to Phillip Island, see the penguins coming in on an evening across the beach and up the grass bank into the burrows. That was lovely watching the little penguins come out of the sea, and there'll be 10 or a dozen come out together. And then, yeah, we've done so much. It's just trying to remember everything we've done. And obviously, Christmas Day in Melbourne, we're on the Yarra River. We had a booze cruise. So it was a completely different Christmas. It wasn't Christmas Day. It was just another day, really. But we had 3 hours on the Yarra River where we had roast turkey, roast pork, cranberry sauce, just to feel a bit like Christmas Day. And then in Sydney, we were extremely lucky with our tour company had booked a restaurant that overlooked the harbour. So on the right-hand side, we had the Opera House, and on the left-hand side, we had the Harbour Bridge, and we could see the fireworks. They were amazing. Even the kids' fireworks at 9 o'clock was something that went on for about 10 minutes. And then at midnight, obviously, they went on for about 12 or 13 minutes. But we had such a good view, and say from start to finish, I mean, it's run to clock. to clockwork. But I've done a diary. I'm thankful I was reading through the other day. I've forgotten we've done this, I've forgotten I've done that. And we've met some lovely people on our tour. And obviously, as I said before, we've met loads of lovely Australians have been really friendly.
Ian, Alan Wicker got about there, didn't he?
He did, to be fair. Very impressive. I must admit, I went, obviously got to Perth. I did the same, went to Rottnest Island at a time. I had a couple of friends. In fact, I had a friend I'd not seen for 30 odd years who lived in just outside Perth. So he picked me up on one of the days, one of the test days, which I was quite pleased about, to be honest, because he was working and that happened to be the day. So I was quite pleased that I was, and he took me around to Fremantle and showed me the sights of around Perth. And then I flew over to Cairns, and as I mentioned it earlier, I went on the Great Barrier Reef. Cairns is an amazing place. I must admit, all the cities I visited, Perth, Cairns, Brisbane, Hobart, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, they were all absolutely amazing, fantastic places. And I couldn't really pick the best, but if you push me, I'd probably say Adelaide, actually. I really loved Adelaide. So I did a lot. I also did quite a bit of sport, and I took a bit of football in as well. When I was in Melbourne, went to watch Melbourne Victory play, and I went over to watch the Wanderers play on New Year's Day. My Christmas Day wasn't as glamorous as Graham's. Me and my mate, because my mate arrived on Christmas Day, he came in late, and I met him, and we ended up at McDonald's sharing 20 chicken nuggets for Christmas dinner. So that was my Christmas dinner, but it was fantastic, a different Christmas. But yeah, it was amazing. I wouldn't have swapped it. So I was quite pleased. I had a plan of what I wanted to do, and I did it. And I spent I think the longest I was in was Adelaide, 9 days, and I was so pleased I did, because I really loved Adelaide. But as I said, every city I visited was different. Hobart, I don't know if you went to Hobart. You mentioned the other sites. I went over. I saw the Tasmanian Devil. I went to a brewery. I went on a tour of a brewery, the Cascade Brewery, just outside Hobart. While I was there, I wasn't there as long as you. I was only there for 4 days, Graham. But I really loved Tasmania. And I noticed on Christmas Day, Tasmania, like you said, the weather was fantastic when I was there. I was on the beach in Tasmania, 26 degrees. But on Christmas Day, I noticed I was watching the TV, and the weather, it was snowing in Tasmania. They had 2 inches of snow in Hobart. Oh, not Hobart, one place north in Tasmania, south, I should say. But yeah, just amazing. It was a fantastic trip.
Well, it sounds like you both had a fantastic time when you weren't watching the cricket, but returning to the cricket. What next for England, Graham, playing wise, on and off the field?
Well, obviously this year we've got Pakistan and New Zealand first, and Pakistan. So we're going to Trent Bridge to watch them against New Zealand in June, I think they are, and then August they're at Leeds against Pakistan. And then obviously 2027 you've got the centenary test in Melbourne. We've not decided whether we'll go or not. We're woman and iron about it. And obviously the Ashes in 2027 over here. I'd like to think we could probably win it. It might just depend on what bowling attack Australia have still got. Obviously Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, Lyon and Boland are all of an age where they're not got many more years left in them. So if they come across, then I think we'll probably might be another 2-all draw. Australia always seem to be competitive in England. We don't seem to be competitive in Australia. So I think we've got a good chance in 2027 to win the Ashes. Obviously we need to win it outright, because obviously a draw, you just Australia retain it.
Do you think there'll be many changes in the England team and coach, captain?
I don't think coach and captain will change. So Stokes played really well. He bowled really well, and he batted. He probably didn't bat as good as he should have done. He went into his shell a bit. He wasn't quite as aggressive as he probably could have been, but obviously he was just trying to play the game. Well, obviously the openers, who knows, with Crawley and Duckett, whether they'll still be there. But I would have thought Bethel, Root, Brook, Stokes, wicket keeper, there's a big question mark over, but you don't really know who else is waiting in the wings. Is there anybody better to come in? I know, is it Folkes? Ben Folkes keeps mentioned, but I think he's probably missed his time. And then obviously with the bowling, Archer, whether he's still fit, I can't see Wood still being around in 2027. Cast, I thought Atkinson bowled really well in Australia without getting the wickets. So again, if they can keep Atkinson, Archer, and then they've obviously got to find a spinner from somewhere. I don't know whether they've gone cold on Bashir or whether he'll come good in England, but he needs to play some county games. And I think that's the problem with a lot of the England team. They don't play enough county games, so they don't know how to build an innings and don't know how to bowl for 2 days, bowl 35 overs in a day. So the bowlers, they're all fit, but they're not very strong. They seem to break down. So years ago, the England bowlers were all very strong. They could bowl for 4 or 5 days without having than 5 tests. Now it seems to be 3 tests. That's as much as they can do. We'll bring another couple of bowlers in for the last 2 tests. So yeah, I'm fairly hopeful again for 2027, and I don't think we could do it in our country.
What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I think we're going to struggle in 2027 unless we make some dramatic changes. But I can't see them, as Graham's just said. You just don't know. I think the wicket keeper, there must be a proper wicket keeper. I mean, I'm fed up of saying, oh yeah, we've got one. Just using batsmen. I mean, the last batsman we had, and I would class as real wicket keeper, was probably Alex Stewart. He was good bat, but he was also a good wicket keeper. I can't think of one since, and I just think that's a massive thing, and we're kind of missing the trick. We just need to get in a wicket keeper, but obviously it's not just that. You need bowlers, and I think we might struggle again. To be honest, I can't see us winning. I think we may draw, but I think we'll struggle unless there's some dramatic changes. I agree with Graham. I thought Stokes was probably one of the pick of the players, and he did what he could. He played well. I thought, bowled well, and he looks very injury prone, and I just fear for that. And he's going to be a good few years older as well. So I'm just not 100% certain. So I don't know whether there's a change needed personally, but I don't think they will, mate. I don't think they will. But like Graham, I'm disappointed that this year there's only, again, it's like the Ashes when it comes here. The furthest north is Nottingham. You know, there's no tests up here. I think that just tells you something about the state of English cricket as well. To be honest with you, I'm a bit disappointed. And again, this next test, Pakistan, New Zealand, the nearest one is Leeds. That's the furthest, and then after that, there's nothing. There's not Nottingham, and then it's all down south again. So it's a bit disappointing for me that we haven't got some tests at Old Trafford. But I know the weather's not the best. As far as I'm concerned, I'll definitely go and watch Pakistan in Headingley, and I want to try and get over to Old Trafford to watch some of the women's 2020. I think that'll be quite good in July. Quite looking forward to watching some of the games. There's a few games over at Old Trafford, so I hope to go to them. I might even travel as well to have a look. But yeah, that's it for me. I think it's going to be a long goal, but I think we'll suffer. I mean, you've got to give it to the Australians. They're going to come over here full of confidence, having beaten us 4-1. So I think it'll be difficult.
Returning to you, Graham, though. For anyone listening to this podcast who's not been to Australia or is thinking about going in 29, 30, or even the centenary test in 2027, I'm sure you're going to recommend they should go.
Yeah, definitely go. Yeah, just do it because, we understand whether to go this time or in 4 years' time. We think, 4 years' time, you're 4 years older. What's around the corner? You don't know. Obviously, we've got elderly parents as well. So you're not sure they're going to be another 4 years older. Yeah, if you've got, even for 2 tests, even if it was the Boxing Day and New Year, if that's all you get time off work, all you can afford to do, then do it and get on with it, because it's a lovely country, and there's just more than the cricket there to do. As Ian said, every city's lovely. I can see why a lot of expats get stuck in Perth and never come home, because it's a beautiful city. But they all are. They're all seem to be far better than our cities. I don't know, because we were sort of on a bit of a jolly, a bit of a holiday. It seemed a bit different, but definitely do it. Go.
I agree. I agree. I would recommend anybody who's got the opportunity to go. It's an absolute must. If I'd have gone over to Australia 35 years ago, I doubt whether I would have come back, in fairness. And as Graham said, I can see quite a lot of people, the expats, I can see why they're there. And I can see the youngsters that are going over there now, they're working over there. I met quite a few people, expats, but it's just an amazing country. And as I said, the cities, I mean, I went down to the Gold Coast on the train, and I went to the ticket office and asked for a ticket. Similar journey for me. It's probably to Leeds, if you like, an hour and a half on the train. Cost probably about 30 quid to get to Leeds for me with my senior rail card. And it was 50p return, that, and same with Perth. All the inner city buses, the Red Cat and Black Cat, which you may or may not have used, Graham. Yep. All they were free. You just jumped on. So I just wonder why can't it be like that in our cities? The transport link, everything's on time. I know, as Graham said, you are on holiday, so you're on a bit of a high anyway. But I just think everything I did, the flights, the internal flights, the trains, the buses, and I used public transport wherever I went, or walking, and even walking, it's so much easier. They make life. It's an outdoor place to live, and they make life so much easier out there. So yeah, I would recommend if you're thinking about going, go.
I should send this podcast to the Australian Tourist Board. They'd be impressed with this. I must thank you both for being on the show. I bet you never thought you'd be on a podcast when you went to Australia. Hope we get some listeners. Please share it with all your friends. And it's really Graham's fault, because I'm always thinking of ideas for a podcast, and there I was in the coffee queue. And there was Graham saying he was going to all 5 tests when I met him in Perth. So thank you, Graham. And then I came across Ian, thanks to my friend Jenny Thompson, who also now must listen to this podcast and at a future date will be on the show again.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us, Stephen. It's been a blast. I've really enjoyed it. And I must admit, you mentioned about coffee. That's another thing. I'm a bit of a coffee fiend, and I thought the coffee in Australia is a really high quality, and there's no conglomerates. I think I only saw 1 or 2 Starbucks, but in various cities. But the coffee. So the coffee is another thing to go for. It's really nice. I know they import it, but they roast it mainly. They roast it in Melbourne and I think Tasmania. But yeah. It's thanks for inviting us. I've really enjoyed it.
Yes, so have I, Stephen. Thank you very much for the invite. I'm glad I bumped into you in that very long coffee queue in Perth. But thank you very much. I've really enjoyed tonight. So it's first podcast, and if you want to catch up with us again for any reason, then please do. Thank you very much.
Feel the rush. Live thoroughbred racing is happening now at Laurel Park, the Players Track. Every Friday through Sunday, the gates open at 11 a.m. and the action starts at noon. Free admission, fast-paced racing, and real wagering excitement from start to finish. Pick your horses, place your bets, chase the win. From live racing and simulcast action to great food, special events, and non-stop sports viewing, Laurel Park is where the action lives. Come, win, play. Visit laurelpark.com.